Hey YouTube, haven't made a video in a while because things are just so constantly in flux. It's like anything you say one day, next day is almost completely obsolete. Things change so rapidly and so fast. One thing that has remained constant is this crazy Russian story, Russian hacking story. Actually, it's been going on for several years, as I'm going to detail right now, but it's just really getting to a very much extreme now. And one thing I'd like to ask everyone is, you keep hearing about this McCarthyism, and supposedly Trump is the new McCarthy, but why is it terrible what Joseph McCarthy did, making baseless, treasonous accusations about Russians, communists in the 50s? Why is that so horrible? But today we have baseless, treasonous accusations against the Trump administration and people inside of it, and even people on the outside that are just his surrogates or whatnot. But, they're somehow Russians. Russian agents. So I don't understand the difference in how the morality has changed, and you can call somebody something when you're doing the thing that you're calling them. I don't know how that works, but that seems to be what's going on, because I haven't seen one shred of evidence of any Russian hacking. I guess they would use the excuse that all this information is classified, but that just doesn't pass the bullshit test for me anymore. I'm really sick of it. The DOJ or whoever, the intelligence agency, released that thing on the internet with a bunch of graphics and infographics and disclaimers. Actually, really didn't come to any conclusion whatsoever. And so I'm really not sure what people are talking about when they say facts and evidence about this. And another thing is, I keep hearing people talking about Trump making accusations and not presenting any evidence, but yet I see the same thing here. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence of any of this? When somebody makes an accusation against, some cabinet member or against Trump or one of his surrogates, I don't see them providing any evidence whatsoever. Yet the media goes with it as if it's a fact. But let's take these things to their logical conclusion. One thing we have to admit at this point, like I detailed in this article from December 11th, that I wrote on surftowork.com, which I would like you to go take a look at when you have a chance, is, here we have a situation where the election was definitely being monitored by every intelligence agency, including the FBI, and yet the Russians were still able to take this pervasive action and actually create the election of Donald Trump, if you're to believe the sources on the left and the Democratic Party and the mainstream media. So how does that happen? How is it that we spend billions on homeland security and cybersecurity and all this stuff, and yet they're still able to do these things under the full view of the United States government? And now we know more than ever that the government was definitely looking into this thing very hard from the beginning, which gives them little excuse for it happening and begs the question, where is the evidence? And I would like to point you to this article that is in the New York Times, and it's from the 1st of March. And it says, Obama administration rushed to preserve intelligence of Russian election hacking. So here it is. They're leaving, as the account of this article points out, breadcrumbs in these security briefings they were getting, where they asked very specific questions, knowing that people could look things up. So it just goes on and on, this article, about how confident the Obama administration was that the Russians had interfered in the election, and they for sure wanted all this evidence to be preserved. So I ask again, where's the evidence? Okay? It's getting to the point now where it's time to show the cards. All right? Because I'm not believing any of this stuff. And the one thing that is being skipped, and I listened to NPR today, and they just skipped right over this. They acted like all these allegations that Mark Levin made were the evidence, and actually he wasn't making allegations. He was stating facts from articles that were in the press. And the first and the most important one he brought up was this one, where it definitely says there are two separate sources, if we're to believe journalists these days, with links to the counterintelligence community that have confirmed to history that the FBI sought and was granted a FISA court warrant in October, before the election, granting them permission to look into, let's see, if I was going, or giving counterintelligence permission to examine the activities of U.S. persons in Donald Trump's campaign with ties to Russia. So this is what the FISA court is for this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and it's to get permission to spy on U.S. citizens. So this right here, article goes to detail that they submitted one request for a warrant, and they believed it was very important to leave this trail of evidence and could preserve the chain of evidence, they go on to say. So they wanted this warrant in particular. The first one they asked for was denied. Remember that the FISA court okays 93% of the warrants that it's asked for. So they denied the first one. Apparently it was too broad, and it mentioned Donald Trump in particular. In the second one, they came on with some comment, some story about how they saw a server in the Trump Tower that was a private server that was communicating with two Russian banks, and they wanted to know that. So there you go right there. You can see that they just do whatever they want. Okay? I mean, these servers, like, what were they doing? They're communicating with the Russian bank. So therefore, let's investigate and do a wiretap of the entire Trump staff, because that's what happened. Okay? So we can see that. Another thing, I've been wondering why no one brought this up. I mean, the reason that I knew all this was true the minute Trump said it was because some of the things that have been exposed in the press were definitely obtained through electronic intelligence and surveillance. So that means all these people were under surveillance. How else would they come up with these things to put in the press? You know, it's a real serious problem when you have an administration doing all this surveillance on someone that's running for president and in the opposition party. And if they have this evidence, if they spent the millions apparently gathering it, it's time to show it right now instead of playing around, because it appears that this is all inspired by the Democratic Party and people in the Democratic National Committee, including Barack Obama and his surrogates, and it appears that they spent a lot of money on it, and that they wanted to infiltrate the Trump campaign, and they did it. And so if they have something, let's do it, because otherwise it just looks like they're just, you know, using the system to try to undermine Trump, which is what they said the whole intent of the Russian attempt at hacking Trump was in the first place. Not hacking Trump, but hacking the DMC was to disrupt the entire Democratic Party and our way of life and the American government. And so, in fact, all these stories and all their accusations are, in fact, doing that. So it seems to me that they're more working with the Russians than Trump, but that remains to be seen. The thing is, it's time for people to show their cards. They're making a super big deal out of everything. I mean, this guy meeting with the Russian ambassador is totally part of his role. It's the Senate Foreign Intelligence Committee. I don't get it. I wrote this other article about arming ourselves for the wrong war way back in April 15, 2015, begging the government to, you know, stop spending so much money on these overseas adventures and start spending more money on securing our infrastructure. And I invite you to look at this, even if you don't like Mark Levin, like I don't like him. But go on the Blaze and look at this interview he gave for Fox News, where he details, you know, 8 or 9 different articles where the press is admitting that Trump was wiretapped the whole time. That's how they're coming up with these leaks. And, you know, it doesn't, I'm sure what eventually happened is that Trump found something in the press that he knows he said to someone on the phone. And that's it. So it's pretty obvious at that point, you know, you're being wiretapped at that point. Anyway, I hope you'll look into some of these articles. And then you take this very seriously, because even if you don't like Trump, like I don't like Trump, I didn't vote for him, I'm an anarchist. I didn't vote for anyone. So even if you don't like Trump, the fact is this is a very dangerous situation where you have elements of the U.S. Foreign intelligence community, and the intelligence community, and the domestic intelligence community collaborating to try to create basically a coup and bring down a president. I don't know who they're going to put in his place, because I guess we just put a Democrat in their place is what they'd want, because Pence will be part of this too. And now we see that there was a use of this surveillance state to try to trap Trump. They were doing it for months, possibly from early January, looking at all these ties to all these people in his campaign. If they found something, I do believe they would have brought it up during the campaign, if not right afterwards, to try to get him impeached. They haven't done it yet, so they're just dragging the story out, trying to take down as many people as they can. It's pretty bad. It's using, it's kind of like using the IRS against people, and it points to the fact that the government's way too big. I hope Trump will take this seriously. They'll do it to him, they'll do it to anybody, and it's time for this whole surveillance state to be completely dismantled. I don't know how they're going to account for all the money they spent on it, but it's entirely too much. It's ineffective. It's being used to spy on us domestically. This was pointed out by Snowden. So even if they didn't have a warrant, they still have all this, all the phone calls from Trump Tower, all the emails and everything. We all know this. You can go look this up. The NSA has built a gigantic, the world's biggest data center in Utah, using up all the water out there. It goes on and on. Just know that our money's being spent unwisely. It's being spent to spy on us, and we're being made to pay for it. So thanks. Please look into some of this stuff I'm talking about, and try to deal with it. Try to process all this information. It's very important that we're not distracted from the main things, which is the main problem that we have in the United States today, which is the loss of our liberty and the disrespect for the United States Constitution. Thank you very much.